The Jordan River stood between the Israelites and their promised land. But the same God who miraculously delivered them from the slavery of Egypt would once again make a way where there was no way. It is time for you to separate yourselves from the things of the world that hold you back from God, Joshua declared to the people of Israel, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing wonders before your eyes. As God had been with Moses when he parted the Red Sea 40 years earlier, the Lord promised he would also be with Joshua. Inspired by this confidence, Joshua explained the plan that God had given him. "Here's what we will do," Joshua announced. "As soon as you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God being carried by the priests, follow after it." The Ark of the Covenant was important because it held the 2 stone tablets on which God had written his law, which showed his people how to live. It also held the promise of mercy and forgiveness when they failed to do what he commanded. This special golden box was the physical representation of the living God. It held the mystery and promise of a Savior. On this day, the people of God placed all their confidence and trust in him to deliver them, and God led them to the land he promised. When the priests who carried the ark approached the raging waters, they did not hesitate to step in. They were not afraid of what they saw with their eyes, because their focus was on the promise God had made them. With courage and determination, they stepped in. And God performed the most amazing miracle. God held back the waters of the Jordan River. From the moment the priests took the first steps into the troubled waters, they miraculously stopped flowing. Far up the river, at the city of Adam, the water piled high as though it were splashing up against an invisible wall. As planned, the priest stood on dry ground in the middle of the river and waited until all the people of Israel passed by. When the last of them had crossed safely, the priests followed behind. And when they reached the other side, God released the waters back into the river canyon as they had been before. God proved to Israel that there was no sea deep enough to hold them back from his promises. It was important that his people always remember how mighty and powerful their God was, so that they would have the strength and courage to trust him in the future. So God had one representative from each of the 12 tribes of Israel collect stones from the riverbed to memorialize this great event. One by one, Joshua placed each stone in a pile as he acknowledged God's power and goodness. In the future, when their children and their children's children looked at these stones, they would remember how God separated them from a painful past, how he built their faith and trust in his strength, how he brought terror and confusion to their enemies, and most importantly of all, this event held the promise of their final deliverance that would come through Jesus the Messiah.